Humans survive on transportation getting from point A to B, whether it's home, school, work, or a grocery store. Everyone needs transportation, from the simplest of walking with their own 2 feet to the most extravagant as airplanes traveling miles above the ground. We all use transportation at some point. But the real question is what has become the easily most common form of transportation in our world within the last century or so? The answer is pretty obvious: automobiles. Without automobiles, life could not merely be as easy and efficient as it has become in our modern day. But what will happen when there's no one left on Earth to drive these cars? Will we learn then? Addressing the issue of car pollution is essential in providing a safe, healthy air for us to breathe.
In order to fully understand this issue, let's tell a story. This is Bob. Bob is your regular working man. He has a family at home, a decently sized house, a dog named Scruffy, and a reliable profession. You could say he's a smart individual despite the fact that he drives a Hummer. Hummers, although spacious and relatively attractive cars, not, can produce extremely low gas mileage. Hummers on average get around 10 miles to a gallon. 10? 10? You could say that's less than convenient. And on top of this, the effect his vehicle is having on the environment is jaw-dropping. A 2009 Hummer H2 delivers 10.95 tons of annual CO2 emissions. Ew. Now let's look on the opposite side of the spectrum, shall we? Sheila is your average working woman. She has a loving husband, 2 kids out of the house, and a few cats, her own small business, and a decently sized house. You might underestimate Sheila, but in reality, she is rather smarter than Bob. While Bob guzzles gas by driving his Hummer H2, Sheila drives a Prius, an eco-friendly hybrid that uses both electricity and gas. While a Hummer's gas mileage is jaw-dropping, her Prius gets on average 45 miles to the gallon. That is more than 4 times the amount of Bob's mileage, and compared to that ugly box of a car Hummer, Sheila's Prius delivers only 4 tons of emission each year. So what's more worth it? Because Bob's car only gets 10 miles to the gallon, you can imagine how often Bob would have to fill up his tank. From driving to and from his work 5 days, driving around his kids to soccer practice and the mall, his gas bill must be crazy. Cars are known on average to emit about 24 pounds of carbon dioxide for every gallon of gas, 19 pounds coming directly from the car's tailpipe. How insane! Automobiles are responsible for 1/5 of all U.S. emissions. Thanks, Obama. So what exactly are these emissions and what do they do to us in our world? Vehicles produce a greenhouse gas known as carbon monoxide. What this does to our atmosphere is devastating. It reduces the amount of hydroxyl radicals. Hydroxyl radicals reduce the lifetimes of strong greenhouse gases. Putting more carbon monoxide into our air is basically eating away at the natural armor our atmosphere wears, making it weaker and weaker. People with different types of heart disease are extremely susceptible to the effects of carbon monoxide because it reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. And on top of that, scientific experts are finding that the nation faces an epidemic of illnesses because of the amount of pollution in our air. Have you ever seen a truck or car fart out that disgusting black gas? Vehicle exhaust emits very fine particles that penetrate the lungs deeply and inflame the circulatory system, damaging cells and causing respiratory problems. Have you ever heard of a carcinogen? It is a nasty substance that can cause cancer in living tissue. Vehicles emit numerous carcinogenic chemicals. Diesel contains 3 well-known carcinogens that are toxic to our bodies. EPA estimates that our vehicle emissions account for as many as half of all cancers attributed to outdoor pollution. So now you are probably thinking, how do we reverse this? Well, although we have already done quite a bit of damage to our air and atmosphere, there are still ways we can stop more carbon from building up. In a perfect world, the best thing to do would be to eliminate the use of all fuel-burning vehicles. But let's think realistically because everyone has a car. So instead, we can all work together and try to reduce our use of automobiles. This can be done by using alternatives to driving like riding bikes, walking, carpooling with other people, using public transportation like buses or trains. Also, driving low-carbon vehicles just because a car has high mileage doesn't mean it's emitting less carbon. Ugh. If you drive an electric car that is already charged with clean electricity, you will essentially be emitting 0 carbon. And after the incentives with no price of gas, you will be saving a lot of money. Did you hear that, Bob? Another thing is that you shouldn't be buying a huge-sized car if you don't need the extra space. Buying a hitch-mounted cargo rack for only a couple $100 increases aerodynamic drag and decreases fuel economy. Also, your driving style contributes a lot. Speeding and unnecessary acceleration reduce gas mileage by 33%, waste gas and money, and increase your carbon footprint. Making sure your vehicle has proper tuning and inflated tires increases your mileage by 3%. Try and avoid traffic because it wastes gas and unnecessarily creates carbon gases. You can use traffic websites and apps to avoid this.